debate. The topic for this debate is this House would create a legal market for the sale of rhino horn. Adjudicating today's debate, we have in the chair position, Paido Mkondo, who is the South African National Chief Adjudicator, as well as the Chief Adjudicator for the Gauteng Schools Debating Board 2013, and an A-ranked judge at the World Schools Debating Tournament 2012. Congratulations, welcome. On his wings, we have Luke Churchyard, the national coach of the Team South Africa, a member of the South African Schools Debating Board, and the Gauteng representative of the SANSDC. So congratulations. Assistant National Debating Coach, President of the Gauteng Schools Debating Board, and Development Officer of the South African Schools Debating Board. In opposition, in the first speaker, we have Josh Broomberg, who is the SA National Team Captain. Secondly, we have Emma Buckland, who is part of the South African National A Team. We have Bettina Baidu in third, who is also part of the South African A Team, and as well as the South African Academy Team. And William Shoki, who was one of the top 10 speakers, top 10 junior speakers at the South African tournament last year. So congratulations and welcome. In opposition, we have Sam Musker, the South African National Team Reserve and part of the SA National Team. And we have Daniel Peter, who is also part of the South African National Team. Kate Dewey, who is part of the SA A Team. And Kosinati Macha, Junior National Champion for 2012. I would like to call, speeches are going to be 8 minutes long this evening, and without any further ado, I would like to call Prop 1, Josh Broomberg, to start with us.
The war on poaching has failed. 600 rhinos were killed last year, and by 2020 the species will be extinct. Side proposition can no longer stand for a failing status quo. That is why, for the sake of saving the rhinos and for the sake of people as a whole, we propose creating a legal market for the sale of rhino horns. As the first speaker, I'll be discussing why this market would be better for rhinos, and secondly, why it would be better for the people of South Africa. My second speaker, Emma, will then discuss why this would improve environmental conservation as a whole, as well as putting an end to the pseudo-war which is anti-poaching. Now, before I start my substantive matter, I want to address 3 questions of context. Firstly, what exactly is the problem? Because we see that the problem is more than just the fact that 600 rhinos are poached. It's the fact that in the extraction of the horns, these poachers, who are in a rush and don't care about the rhinos, cut Achilles tendons, chop off the front part of rhinos' heads, and essentially kill those rhinos. Basically, we think the real issue here is that rhinos are dying in the extraction of their horns. Secondly, what we see is that all the mechanisms we are currently putting in place are failing. We have pumped millions of rands, have multiple military units present in the Kruger National Park, and hundreds of NGOs, but we are still not able to end the poaching problem. The second question is why we care about this. And here we see that the primary reason is actually for the sake of humans. We would say that rhinos have a massive significant importance for humans as part of the ecosystem. They are valuable in terms of the beauty they provide. They are valuable in terms of their role as a species which we do not want to kill. Secondly, we'd say they also have some environmental value. We'd say that they do have a value maintaining the ecosystem as part of the Kruger National Park. The third question then to answer quickly is what exactly our mechanism is to this? And we'd say in terms of supply, we're looking at 3 different mechanisms for providing rhino horns. Firstly, we're talking about the reserves. The 48 tons of rhino horn the Kruger Park currently has in its stockpile because it isn't able to legally sell them. Secondly, we're talking about things like the safe removal of horns, which can be undertaken if it is done in a safe way. Essentially, rhinos can grow their horns back in a number of years, and we think that this doesn't harm them at all. In terms of the actual sale, we're talking about a centralized body controlling the sale and supply of rhino horns, much like the oil industry, which is controlled by OPEC. Smaller supply industries would fit into this larger body, and therefore ensure that the market functions. Some profit from these sales would go towards conservation, and we think there would be extensive quality control devices such as trackers and DNA tagging, which only cost $200 a horn, which is an infinitesimally small part of the price of the horn as a whole. So, with that established, let me move on to my substantive matter. And the first point to analyze is why this is better for the rhinos themselves. And we'll be reaching this conclusion in 2 ways. Firstly, we'll be showing that there will actually be less demand for rhino horn in a legalized market. But secondly, that even if demand was the same or grew, we would preserve more rhinos. There would be less death of rhinos in our country. first thing to establish before we do either of these two things is what exactly happens to the price. What we see is the price would go down in our market for two reasons. Firstly, because we control a massive stockpile and therefore supply. We can flood the market to a point where we can overcome demand and therefore prices drop. Secondly, we can make the same amount of profit as someone selling in the black market, but at a much lower sales price. Because we don't have to bribe gate guards, we don't have to hire boats to sneak past customs, and there aren't any failed attempts which mean that we don't make any profit. This means that we can sell the horns for much less while making the same profit as anybody. So, let's first analyze, no thank you Dan. Why do we reduce demand? And we'd say there are two reasons why people currently demand rhino horns. The first one is medical value, and the second one is as a status symbol or showing of wealth. In terms of the medical value, we'd say firstly we change the information people have. We remove the man who's lying to you about the medical properties of rhino horn as an aphrodisiac, for example, because he has a profit motive, and replace it with a shop which not only won't lie to you, but will also actively tell you that it isn't beneficial, because shops are not allowed to lie, and these kind of rhino horns are not actually aphrodisiacs. So thank you. Secondly, we'd say in the longer term, we get education through experience. Maybe in the short term, more people will buy rhino horns. But as they are exposed and more people are exposed to rhino horns and see it doesn't work, and are able to talk about it openly because it's legal, we get a learning curve where people will stop buying. In terms of the status symbol idea, we firstly remove the real value of rhino horns. They simply aren't as valuable, because we've shown you why they reduce the price. But we also reduce the perceived value. These aren't the kind of unattainable things which only the super rich can get. Therefore, people will buy rhino horns less, and there's less demand. The next question to ask is why, even if there is more demand, we preserve rhinos better. And the answer to this is that there will no longer be a black market. Why? In the short term, people move away from the black market because our market is cheaper. Our market involves shops, which means that it's easy, it's safe. You no longer have to deal with the black market criminal who might have a gun and shoot you for paying. And the quality is assured. No, thank you, Dan. And third, we think there's a morality question. Given the choice of a can of tuna which has dolphins or doesn't have dolphins in it, people are likely to choose the can which doesn't have dolphins. The same thing applies to rhinos. We think people are likely to choose the more moral market. This means that people aren't going to support that black market, and therefore rhinos will not be killed. They will use our safer mechanisms for getting rhino horns. The only question to answer then is why the new companies are actually good. And here I would say there are two very simple reasons. Firstly, the nature of public companies. We say that these organizations are not criminal. They're made up of good people. But secondly, that they're accountable. They're accountable to the law, they're accountable to the media, and they're accountable to customers who will not buy their product if they know, because the media has told them, that their product comes from killing rhinos. Secondly, these companies have a vested interest in the protection of rhinos. These rhinos are theirs. Unlike a poacher, and I'll take you in a second, these rhinos are their property. Moreover, they have future potential because they can regrow their horns and be reharvested. That means that they will aim to protect these rhinos in their own harvesting, as well as protect them from poachers. Yes, Dan?
All of your analysis, which says that we can have the ethical sale of rhino horn, is premised on the analysis that we're able to control and regulate the market. Using those same mechanisms, why can't we control the market from illegal poachers under the status quo? You're using the same mechanisms as we're using.
Dan, right now there's massive demand for rhino horns and we're not satisfying it. That means that there's massive profit associated for anyone who wants to break into the park, and they are making enough money and selling it to enough people to make that worth their while. In our market, we don't have to stop poachers. All we have to do is provide a product which everyone will buy according to the analysis I just made, and therefore mean that people will choose our product, not the product of poachers, and therefore we stop poaching and stop the killing of rhinos. That's the simple mechanistic analysis. So, I've shown you now why not only we reduce demand, but also why even if we don't reduce demand, we shift the demand to the place which doesn't kill rhinos. That means that unless they can show demand will increase to such an extent that the black market will get more demand than it's having now, even though it coexists with the legal market, they are losing that point. The next issue then is gains made by people. The conclusion I'll be reaching on this point is that essentially there's massive gains to humans, and that therefore this further justifies our policy. So, what are the gains? Firstly, we're talking about economic gains. We're talking about the direct gains of the profit and employment which come with a new multi-billion-dollar industry. Secondly, we're talking about secondary industries, the roads and infrastructure that come with the new industry, machinery used to harvest the horns from rhinos. And third, we're talking about things like tourism, because we put our name out there as the rhino capital of the world. We get our name into the media, even if it is for the wrong reason, and people think we shouldn't sell rhino horns. Secondly, we're talking about cultural benefits. Right now, people who do culturally value the use of rhino horns have to do it illegally. That means that they're losing the value of their religion based on the fact that they have to also weigh up the fact of breaking the law. If we provide it to them legally, they get more benefit. This means that not only do we add another benefit to the idea of saving rhinos, but even if we assume they do somehow manage to prove that rhinos will be harmed, we would actually do this. Why? Because the web isn't between the environment and humans. It's between a human benefit in terms of making money or culture, and a human benefit in terms of preservation, like I analyzed in my context. Given this, we'd say we would much rather benefit the people who are struggling, the poor people who will gain, even if it's small amounts of money that makes a real difference, relative to the richer people who are experiencing the joy of taking a photograph of the rhino. In conclusion, what we see is that this policy is the only effective way to address a failing status quo. It is the way that we shift demand away from poaching and ensure that rhinos remain a species alive. Secondly, it benefits the population of South Africa, and it is on these grounds that I'm proud of it.